Pittsburgh Steelers pioneer. He's coached for the team for the last 29 years, Ike. Coach John Mitchell is going to retire. In your opinion, you played under him. What did he mean to the game? I'm going to give you the floor, Ike, because this is someone who is an absolute pioneer in the football world. Again, he's coached for almost 5 decades, the last 29 as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Coach Bear Bryant's first Black player for the University of Alabama. Ran a recruiting trip, D-line and linebackers at Louisiana State University, LSU. Getting to the league, produced Aaron Smith, Brett Kiesel, and I'm talking about 6th and 7th rounders into all pros and pro bowlers. As you can see, acquired Cam Hayward, and from what it's looking like, whenever he retires, he probably goes to the Hall of Fame. Made his defensive line understand every position, whether it's linebackers, corners, or safeties. Coach Mitch was just different. You want to talk about what's hanging up on the back behind me? Black art. He got me into black art and the value of black art. Put down the tequilas and started going with the red wines and collecting good red wines to pass down to my son. That's Coach Mitch. So Coach Mitch is just a little bit of everything. Coach Mitch is a pioneer towards football, not only football, but just educating yourself as a young man. And Coach Mitch, the reason why he was assistant coach for so long for Coach Tomlin and Coach Kyle was because he just get it. He just get what it was. He been through the trenches. He been through a lot of adversity. But Coach Mitch, towards the times I've been knowing him through the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, just players who played under Coach Mitch, they got a story for him. And usually the story for Coach Mitch, it was a life story. It helped this player in life, not only on the football field, but in life. So many guys quietly go back to that facility, not only to see each other or get on the phone and text, but to go see Coach Mitch. The impact of Coach John Mitchell was huge, and he's really not talked about as much. I saw the Steelers had posted him on Instagram that he was retiring, and I just told everybody on my story, man, y'all need to Google this man because he's bigger than what you can ever imagine or dream about. The impact of Coach Mitch throughout that organization was huge. So Coach Mitch just like my name on my Instagram. Coach Mitch is just one of a kind. Them guys don't come around too often. I know we talk about this on the show a lot, Mark. I just been very blessed just to be around good, beautiful people, whether it's coaches or employees, especially in my NFL career. So Coach Mitch, he's just one of a kind, Mark. I stepped my game up for Coach Mitch. He the one walking into the facility, our practice facility when it was cold. He said, nobody should never catch a ball on you. He said, I done seen a lot of corners come through, but I love your talent. Step your practice habits up. And I'm like, dang, Coach Mitch, all I do is bust my butt every day at practice. He was like, nah, step your mental game up. So understand where everybody needs to be at. So when Coach LeBeau makes these calls, you understand whether he's thinking run or pass. I said, oh, okay. That kind of game up. So Coach Mitch, like I say, Mark, he's just all the way different, one of a kind for sure. He would truly be missed in that facility.
Did you ever see firsthand, Ike, with your teammates? And the reason I ask this is I read a lot of the tributes that were written about Coach Mitchell. Did you ever see firsthand where with the younger guys early on, they're like, oh, man, Coach Mitchell again, it's like he's got it out for me. But then it pays dividends down the line if you actually listen to what he's telling you.
He hard on them, Mark. He hard on them. But that's an old saying, man. If my coach is hard on me, that means he loved me. Once my coach stopped talking to me they feel like they did everything they could do. You just didn't want to listen. But everything Coach Mitch explained to any young defensive lineman, man, he wasn't doing nothing but telling them the truth because he did it before. He'd been there before. So Coach Mitch, from a coaching standpoint, he don't yell. He don't yell at all. But when they go watch practice tape in that defensive line room, it's going to be like Grandpa talking to you. So he's mentally challenging you each and every day, but he just wants the best out of all his players.
Yeah, Ike, the tributes I read where it was like he would make a lot of the young defensive linemen either come in to meet him early before they were required to be there or stay late when you're not just physically exhausted, but mentally exhausted after a full day's work. And that's what it took to elevate players' games. And you mentioned some of your teammates where, like you, they weren't first or second round picks, but they had to work their way up, not just to perfect their craft, but to have success in the league as well.
Once you get to the NFL, you at a spot where it's only a few, 1,500 total, sitting on the roster, including guys on the practice squad. Now you're probably looking at close to 1,800, and we talking about in the world, and I tell the guys I coach and players this, man, it's 180,000 between Division 1, 2, or 3 players that play football. Only 254 get drafted. And we're not even talking about your position. Maybe 28 get drafted at your position, whether you're a corner or receiver. But when you come down to that D and offensive line, maybe 5 centers might get drafted, maybe defensive tackles, maybe 10 to 12. So it's scarce. So you got to be the cream of the crop to get drafted. And Coach Mitch didn't take that for granted, or he didn't take that light. So that's what he tried to instill in a lot of these players, man. It's very fortunate that you're in the NFL, but by the end of the day, it's very fortunate that you playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and here's why. Let's rewind all the way back to the 1970s, where all this success kind of started, where there was pioneers to winning Super Bowls after Super Bowls after Super Bowls. So Coach Mitch, he hard. He's another one that you didn't want to let down, so say. Him and Dick LeBeau had that granddad mentality. Coach Mitch was just probably the dark side of Coach LeBeau when it came down to that grandpa mentality. But Coach Mitch, one of a kind for sure, bro.
Yeah, Ike, not only the first black player to play at Alabama, in his second year with the program as a player, became the first black co-captain at the school as well. So you talk about old school pioneer as a player, then transitioning to being a coach. He started his coaching career at Alabama. In 1973, he was the team's defensive ends coach, and he goes on to have a storied coaching career spanning 5 decades. So you want to give him his flowers, Ike, and this is someone who doesn't get the notoriety, the pub, the press, but we're starting today's show talking about the impact that he had, because you put 5 decades into anything, let alone the last 29 as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ike, that's as long as I've been alive. So there you go.
Me too. That's just showing how much Pittsburgh in the football world value Coach John Mitchell.